Hey guys, welcome back to the channel for episode 2. I wanted to take a moment to talk about myself a little bit more and kind of give a plan for the car going forward. So a little bit about me. I'm actually prior Navy. I was Navy for a little under 12 years. And in that time, I served as a diesel mechanic, or EN1 for you Navy types out there. And so when I separated in 18, a lot of the extra time and somewhat income that I had to spend on the car kind of came to a screeching halt. See, when I was active duty, it just kind of like a rock star. And those of you who are prior military know what I'm talking about. I mean, because you don't have to worry about anything except for where you're going to party. And in this case, hot rod. So majority of the time, if I wasn't wrenching, I was racing. If I wasn't racing, I was hanging out with my buddies. And then subsequently enough, I met my wife. And then we started traveling. And, the rest is pretty much history. So what I would like to do now going forward is kind of get back to where all this started. So with that, I'm going to keep the channel name the same for as long as it makes sense to, because, this all started around the car, hence the name GTO Adventures. Originally, it was GTO Europe Adventures because I was stationed in Italy at the time. And now that I'm out of the service and obviously stateside, it's just kind of like about the car and the family surrounding the car. That being said, it's been a little bit of a roller coaster, I got a lot of stories that I'll share with you guys with the car going forward. As little things remind me of it. I met a lot of great people. Shout out to SoCal GTO group out there. You guys are great. They were really fun to hang around when I was stationed in California at the time. Shout out to all the guys in Europe that I knew. My Italian motorcycle club. Always think about you guys. It was good times. And anybody that I've met along the way. I know that back when the thread was really popular on GTOA, I had a couple people were inspired to do their own traveling and trips here stateside. One guy did Route 66, if I remember correctly. And it just kind of grew from there. So the car really was an inspiration, not only to me, but people I knew and met along the way. And I just want to keep that spirit in the channel going forward. As for the car, well, this is what we got in the last 10 years of dust collecting and collecting parts. So here I have one of the newer Holley ultra low ram intake manifolds. This was clearly a marketplace kind of a discovery. I didn't realize it had 2 injectors ports until I got it, which is neither here nor there. If the car gets run on an E85, which honestly I'm not a big fan of, those will come out in handy. I have a pair of automotive A1000 pumps I've had forever. One's brand new in the box. I didn't pay a whole lot of money for. Another I got off of a buddy's project that had very little runtime with the controller. I have a older stat gauge, courtesy of Chris Nickel. I bought that off of him years ago from his car. If you guys remember the big bore twin turbo black GTO of 1320 Racing or 1320 Engineering, I'm sorry, from way back in the day. And that car has since been sold, and I believe it's a blower car now. I've recently acquired a Viz Racing, I want to say it's a 86 112. Kind of an accident purchase. And if there is oh my God, such a thing, billet, turbo, triple ball bearing, all the bells and whistles, estimated to be good to some obnoxious amount of power, 2,000 plus or so forth. I don't know if we're ever going to get that high, but I do know with these pumps together with forced induction, you're looking at about 1700 horsepower capability, maybe. So that should keep the turbo happy in that 70 to 80% efficiency range without causing too many issues going forward. I got a chiller tank and a pump. Generic water air chiller, which obviously isn't going to be big enough, but it's just kind of something. I don't even remember where I picked this up at, but I've had it for a while, and I'll obviously get that swapped out for something a little more capable based on what I have so far. I got a BTR Stage 3 cam that came out of a CTSV, and the owner kind of hooked me up. I got a pretty good deal on it. That and a pair of lightly used, what are these, Johnson link bar lifters, and the old push rods that came with it, which may or may not work for my combination, but neither here nor there. For what I paid, I'm not mad, if I'm completely honest. And then over here, you'll see Video coming later. This is a cam kit, pretty good size cam, courtesy of the guys over at Wizard of Tuning out of Kansas, I believe, for my wife's 14 Durango. And you'll see more about that project here coming up soon. She's had the infamous Mopar lifter tick for years and has reminded me, for years, that the tick is less than desirable and she'd like to get it fixed. And around to it, man, around to it. Shortly after I got here and we bought this house, I started a trucking company, which I'm in the process of revamping the business into a little bit different, maybe mostly social media influence with some other avenues than from strictly trucking. And with some of that money, I was finally able to get, when I sold the truck, some of that money I was finally able to get the parts that she needed. Because if you are a Mopar enthusiast out there, you understand how incredibly, hilariously expensive parts for that platform is. And that's part of the reason why it took so long. But she'll be taken care of, because with that cam kit, I also have a set of Cook's long tube headers for a Durango with a mid pipe, and it'll be pretty rowdy, you know, especially for a nurse, right? So with that, I got a 6.2, excuse the mess, 6.2 LS block. It's got a liner issue that needs to be repaired, so the whole block will get sleeved, and I'll get that fixed. And then I have a set of forged pistons for a 415 stroker kit using the LS 3/62 base block to put in it. So all in all, that's about what I got parts wise. The car did get an 850 cage put in it back a couple years ago. Nothing really ever came from that install. The guy that helped me install the cage, Harry, God bless him, Army veteran, passed away a few years ago, helped me put the cage in. And for two novices, he was a 30-year pipeline welder, and I'm obviously a hobby enthusiast. Did our best to put it together. So for those of you who are actual chassis builders, you know, cut us a little bit of a break. We were doing this based on YouTube and his professional opinion at the time. So there'll probably be some chassis changes and modifications required as the build goes forward. But like I said, man, I mean, at this point, the main goal of the car is to simply get the car running as is, with the chassis imperfections, with the cage imperfections, and everything else. Just get the car on the road and running. Once it's on the road and running, turbo or not, because I mean, obviously things change as projects progress. Then we'll take a look back at the safety and figure out where the plan ahead for the car is, since obviously the plan won't be necessarily racing right out of the gate for obvious reasons. I'm pretty excited, honestly. I've had a lot of friends asking about it. Since my last video, I have had a longtime friend and business owner reach out to me offering some support in whatever way they could. And I feel very blessed and grateful for that, because we're going to need a lot of help and a substantial amount of support. And now with the family dynamic changing, with the wife working full time and me being mostly at home and having to work from home, I'll have the benefit of being around the car more often, since I won't be trucking full time. But at the same time, funds will be a little bit different, because I won't be trucking like I was full time, to be able to create that excessive extra income, at least prior to fuel rates going through the roof and insurance anyway, to get the car done. But all that being said, my goal is still to get the car running, not necessarily race worthy, maybe not even driving, just push a button and sitting on the ground on all four wheels and at least able to run idle to some significant degree by my birthday, June 16th, 2024, which gives me roughly 6 months, a little over 6 months, if you count from today, to make that happen. And with an LS platform, that really isn't all that unfeasible if you consider just a regular standalone engine harness, hooking up the power with an engine in the car with fluids and going brap, for a couple seconds or a couple minutes, depending on its level of progression. to just for the simple fact of saying that it runs. That would be a huge win for me. So this car originally was an M6 car with a sunroof, impulse blue on blue, and I cut it up. I want to say it was one of like 186 cars, GTOs made of this year, this color combination. So there's that. Currently, it has a TH400 in it out of a C10, I want to say. So I obviously have to go through that before doing any kind of significant racing of any degree. We have to put a steering rack back in it. I do want to do a tubular K member just to give us a little more room in the engine bay to work with. You're going to need a custom drive shaft. I want to do a G-Force 1320 9-inch conversion in the back. Now, the car is mini tubbed. I did start that process to mini tub it. It does have coilovers in the rear. It does not have the lower control arms modified like you need to when you tub the car, or at least this particular car. So I got to do that still. And just a lot of nickel and dime stuff like that going forward. There is a parachute mount that was fairly easy to install. And at the time, I was really confident I was going to get the car running sooner rather than later. And, well, we see what happened with that. That being said, man, I mean, that's pretty much it. So we're looking for June 16th of this year with the car running. Running and raceable would be great, you know, because June is typically when we, you know, do the bulk of our racing during the summer. If I have the car running and driving by the end of the year, I'd be over the moon excited about that, because it's been a really, really long time. Our anniversary is actually in October. So if I was able to get the car running and drivable and even reliable enough to just go to a dinner date on our anniversary, even if it's just here in town. I live in a very small town here in Oklahoma. Just to go get tacos, my wife would be over the moon excited to ride in this car. Maybe not so much with an 86 millimeter turbo and open exhaust and possibly making over 1,400 horsepower. But because she's doing it with me, she would be a little less annoyed. Maybe. So thanks again for taking the time to hear me ramble for a little bit. I'm going to continue working at this thing and got to go through it and clean it. The mice have done a number on it, making it their home and just kind of making a parts list, kind of taking an evaluation of what needs to be done in what order, priority, if you will, and just get it done to it, man. I mean, it's an LS platform. Anybody who's familiar with these platforms know that they're literally Legos. If I really wanted to, I could probably grab a 4.8 or 5.3 liter out of a junkyard pickup truck, slap a harness in this thing, and technically have a running car in 3 days. But we're not going to do that. It's been way too long. So we're going to do our due diligence, take our time, and get it done right properly the first time, hopefully. So my goal is to evolve the channel into something not quite on the level of a dedicated car tuber, but more somebody who does have experience. I have multiple car projects under my belt from over the years. I've been around this for a very long time, but just trying to motivate and encourage other guys in my position who are fathers, husbands, you know, who have that one car that means a lot to them, that they've just, you know, put second to the family. And that's understandable because that's part of being a man in this day and age. Well, maybe not so much depending on who you're talking to, but the core of of being a husband and a father is understanding that at some point the toys take second place to the family. So trust me, I get it. But for those of you guys out there, and possibly even girls, who have that car or that truck or that motorcycle or boat or whatever it was that means a lot to you and has meant a lot to you for a lot of years, but for whatever reason you just never got around to it, which is the running joke in my family, at least in Oklahoma anyway, of just of one day eventually, man. But like that country music song I heard recently, you could always do it tomorrow until you can't. And so just try to keep that in mind, guys. Anyway, thanks for watching.